I didn't used to tell people I told you so, but in our new current environment, it is necessary because a lot of people, if you don't tell them I told you so, it's almost like they just keep running with the moronic ideas that get in their heads. So here I am telling you, I told you so. I have posted over and over and over again that fascists, far-right lunatics will always vie for power and argue until they eventually fascists eat other fascists. They eat their own. They cannot help themselves. I don't understand why it's different for the far left, but it is. The far left never acts that way. There's a certain difference in the way the power structure is, and they don't do this. But fascists, oh my God, they love to eat each other up. And we all know this if you've ever watched a documentary about Hitler and his minions. I mean, they go over how Goebbels ate up, several of his competitors for the power that he eventually obtained. Yeah. But most of us don't even realize that this exact same shit played out in the 1930s in the United States of America. Oh, yes. And what most people in the United States of America do not realize is that the American Bund, which was the Nazi Party of the United States of America in the 1930s, had basically exactly what we have playing out here, except the founder of the American Bund, Fritz Kuhn, did not ever attain the presidency. Yeah. Now, Fritzy boy, he would go all around the United States, mainly the North and the West, because, the Southerners had their own little clique. And Fritzy would make the claims that he was going to be president of the United States. He wanted to be president of the United States. And he would make the claims that we were supposed to be part of the Axis powers with Germany, and I don't know if he really preferred Japan or Italy, but whatever. He claimed that we should be an Axis power, like the current president said we should be an Axis power with Russia and China. I don't know how that came about. It just sounds evil all the way through. But it does sound a lot like Fritzy Kuhn in the 1930s. Just like the current president, Fritzy had an evangelical with a lot of following, Charles Coughlin. And Charles Coughlin, right, he had 3 million radio listeners at the time. This was huge. This was massive. Because this is all pre-TV. You guys know that, right? 1930s, there were no TVs, right? But Fritzy and Chucky are like trugging along with the American Bund, and they're going to take over the country. And then they get into a pissing contest over power. Very public pissing contest over power. In fact, so much so that Charles Lindbergh tried to take over the American Bund. Fritzy wasn't having that, but we all know how that worked out for Lindbergh, right? Anyway, suffice to say that when Chucky and Fritzy had this massive fight, the American Bund started to fall apart. And then, of course, Chucky, was on the radio on and on and on about against the American Bund and against, Fritzy. And then Fritzy was part of the largest spy ring busted on American soil, where the American Bund had literally brought in over 30 Nazi Germany spies illegally onto American soil, got busted, and, well, didn't work out well for Fritzy. Fritzy eventually ended up in Germany because he chose to go to Germany thinking that he would be revered as a hero, and he lived a very obscure life because the Germans wanted nothing to do with him, and he was not allowed to come back to the United States. Fact. Chucky boy, when he found out about the Holocaust, he changed his tune on whether or not he thought that, Nazis were good people. Meanwhile, we are watching the exact same thing play out now. The only difference is it's as if Fritzy Kuhn became president of the United States. That's it. And they're eating their own. He pushed out the evangelicals, right? And before he even walked into the Oval Office this time, he pushed the evangelicals out. Oh yeah, Chucky boy is gone, boy. But the new Chucky is musky. And they're eating each other alive for money and power. For those 171.5 million of us that did not vote for this, I would remind you that right now, what we are seeing is everybody's fault that did not vote for the woman. That's it. It's about saving democracy. See, the American Bund in the 1930s was a freaking joke. Half of the Germans in the country did not want the Nazis here. They knew exactly what they were. Bitter, power hungry, and hateful. Meantime, in the real world now, 90 years later, we're going to have to save democracy because some of us were dumb enough to vote the newest version of the Bund into office. It's an interesting story to read Fritz's story. Fritz Kuhn is kind of a pathetic character, especially when you place him against Charles Lindbergh. Charles Coughlin, just as interesting of a character, but both of them lost in the annals of history for being on the wrong side. As always, think about it, relish in the fact that they're fighting like cat and dog. And peace.